Hi, welcome back to Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood. We're joined by Hannah Roper from the Female Creative, and we're going to have a session now talking about, building a business around family, prioritising, that kind of thing, because a lot of our community are parents. And this is absolutely a challenge. You might have seen I've got my 5-year-old at home today. There's all sorts going on behind me. And this is the real life juggle, I suppose. And we've been talking about this week, how we make things happen, how we prioritize, how we plan around life and don't think we have all the hours when we really don't. So thanks everyone who's jumping on. I can see you guys joining live. We've actually just come straight from another session, Hannah. So we're having a really great full-on afternoon. So thanks everyone for coming back. And let us know if you are here live or if you're watching the replay and where you are. That would be great to hear. Hannah, do you want to start by letting everyone know what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Hannah Roper. I am the founder and director of the Female Creative, and the Female Creative is a coaching and mentoring business working predominantly with mums and women in business who are wanting to turn something that they love into an income stream, and really going through all of that initial setup, what that means, how they balance, how they juggle. And a lot of the women that I work with on a one-to-one basis, but also as part of my membership, are either juggling parenthood alongside building a business or juggling some sort of job, a paid job, whether it be part-time, full-time, and then wanting to build their business as well. And that's, for me, setting up the Female Creative, it was really important to me to show that it was possible to juggle building a business alongside everything else and to do it before you need it. So I fully live what I help people with, in that I also work full-time within the training and learning department for a large aviation company. So I do that and run my business, and the big focus for me is around balancing it, not losing your mind, still making sure that the small humans are fed on a regular basis, and still being able to create something that you need or you want and is there when you need it. Because I think if nothing else we've learned over the last couple of years with everything that's gone on is you don't know what's around the corner. And especially in the world of work and in the world of employment, it isn't as settled as it was a few years ago. So making sure that you have options is really beneficial.
That's really interesting. So we've actually just come off of a call where we've been talking about pricing and other things, but pricing is a lot of it. And we've been talking about making sure we've got options, because you don't know what's about to happen. And if you don't price correctly, you're not prepared for those particular curveballs that might come your way. But you're talking about setting up a business so that you have that as an option for whatever might come your way. And this is all super relevant, actually, because we had a chat with some of the bookkeepers who's completed our startup program this morning. We did a strategy call with them, and then some people were leaving employment or working part-time or finding that point when they will be able to take their practice full-time. There are a lot of bookkeepers who work with us who bookkeeping is their full-time thing. They've actually been doing it for a long time. There are others who are right at the beginning of that journey. So I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Okay, so that is a lot you've got on your plate.
Yes.
How do you prioritize, or how do you suggest people prioritize if they've got all of this going on?
I think it really comes down to understanding yourself and understanding what success looks like for you. So if I give you a couple of examples of women that I'm working with at the moment, I have one who is a wedding photographer who has just quit her full-time job to go into photography full-time. I am also working with a kinesiologist who has quit her full-time job to go into kinesiology full-time. And for both of them, their full-time jobs were not something that was related to their passion. So it was it's a real switch. And both of them had been working on their business before they'd made that jump. But one of the things that really stuck out for them, and as well with my group membership, is that success is different for everybody. And there is a lot of pressure. I'm absolute lover of social media. I'm a real advocate for social media, but there is a real danger with social media when you see other people talking about their successes, that you start to measure your success against theirs rather than figure out what it really looks like for you. So I think in terms of prioritization, it would be, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to move from working full time into running your own business? Do you want to actually have a better work-life balance? So you might be running your own business already, but actually you're working so many hours and you're not leaving time to do the things that you set your own business up to do in the first place. So I think for me, it's around determining what success looks like for you. Is it based around monetary goals, which is absolutely fantastic and is a real driver for us as business owners, because ultimately we need money to live. And yes, we would all say we would love to do what we do and not worry about money, but we've got bills to pay and a lot of us have got the small humans to feed, and they do eat a lot. I've got a 12-year-old son who size 9 feet and is eating me out of absolute house and home. So those monetary goals are really, really important, but also for yourself. And that's something that I'm a firm believer in, because I love my day job. I've been in learning and development for over 20 years. I started off as a primary school teacher. I've taught secondary school music. I have dabbled in various other things. So I was an operational police officer for 13 years. So I'm a lot tougher than I actually look. And within that, I went into the learning and development department. So I've been in that world for such a long time and I really, really enjoy it. But for me, setting up the Female Creative was about giving myself options and determining what success looks like. So for me, success is not about having 10 clients a month. Success for me is being able to handpick who I work with and not feel that pressure of having to pull business in with people that aren't necessarily my ideal client, or who don't fill me with, working with them doesn't fill me with the same sort of joy. So absolutely, what does success look for you, I think, is the number one thing to really think about when prioritization.
It's so interesting because the chat we just had with James Ashford, we were talking about the money beliefs that we have and things, and yes, we can compare ourselves to, comparisonitis is like the thief of joy, as they say. You know, comparing yourself to someone else on social media and what they want and what their success is doesn't mean that you need to have that, and success will look different for you. But also allowing yourself to be unapologetically ambitious as well if you want to. It's like, it's about finding, I feel like today we're covering both sides of this. It's like, you know, feeling giving yourself a space to actually dream and have goals and actually set those goals, and realize, and success might be a massive big, you know, might be loads of money in the bank for you, but just be okay with that. Whatever it is that you want, you can be okay. But actually, if you want to, you know, if you want to stay in a job because you like that security, but you also want to do something on the side and you enjoy what you're doing, then that's absolutely, like, everything is great. And there's just so much to be said for actually owning what success looks like for you and not looking left or right and just putting the blinkers on and thinking about what it is that you want. And we undenied about calling our group the Six Figure Bookkeeper, because we thought it might put some people off, because they might be thinking, I don't want to know 6 figures. But what it stands for is not about the money side. It's just about aspiration. It's about being in a group of people that have got a growth mindset, that are willing to do things and push themselves a little bit more and learn and be coached and, you know, open to ideas of how things could be better for them. So I'm really pleased that you've brought that up, because we haven't really spoken about how we compare ourselves, and I'm sure lots of people do it. We all do it. We shouldn't, but we all do. And it's and I mean, to be honest, if we're all parents, I mean, that's the worst thing we can do, is comparing ourselves to other parents.
Yes.
Let alone business. I mean, oh my goodness, the mum guilt is real. You know, as soon as you give birth, as soon as you become a parent, you have this guilt that's come from somewhere, and it never goes. It doesn't matter how big they get.
Oh gosh, it's, as I say, my son is now 12, and constantly throughout his childhood, people were saying to me, oh, well, it gets easier as they get older, it gets easier. So sorry, if anyone's got really young children and are hoping that it gets easier as they get older, it just becomes different. They have different demands on your time, they have different needs. It actually becomes a little bit more complex, that it requires so much brain power, because you can't just silence them with a snack or anything like that. Still works sometimes, but there is a lot more of that intellectual kind of back and forth that goes on. But again, I love the points that you're making, because I truly believe in that in, you know, your success is about you, and we do get so drawn into this comparison. And when I first started up my business, and my business is very much a lockdown business, because I am, you may have gathered, an incredibly busy person. I was working full time. I'm also a country music singer-songwriter as well on the side. Just throw that one in there. So I have an alter ego, and I was doing a lot of performing when my son was much younger. Got more difficult as he got older. And I then, because I couldn't travel around the country to perform, I created my own 3-day country music festival local to me. So I had all of this stuff going on. And then COVID hit and everything stopped. And I couldn't contemplate stopping. So I started the Female Creative, but so quickly I began to look at other people. What are they doing? Comparing myself to them. So I started doing a bit more research into it and looked at really the facts that comparison starts for us in childhood, that because of our education system, because of the way that we are taught in schools, and it is better nowadays for our children, but definitely back, I mean, I'm, you know, a child of the very, very early 80s. So back then, in the way that we were schooled, everything was about comparing you with other people, and you had to toe the line to fit in. You had to do what everyone else was doing to feel accepted. And then you plunge yourself into the world of running your own business, and you're actually being told, be you, be different. And your brain's going, but I've been told to be the same as everyone else for my entire life, and now I've got to be different to make myself stand out. It's crazy.
I love this. I really love this, because yesterday we were talking about ideal client, and we're talking here, aren't we, about the sort of fixed mindset that is imposed on us by the education system. And if anyone there's a video by a lady called Carol Dweck, and she talks about this, and we talk about it in the 6-month success program. And we because we're used to being right or wrong, and I would definitely describe myself as somebody who has in the past had a very fixed mindset. This is how it is, that you do this, you're good at this, or you're not good at it, and that is the end of that. And I definitely saw that, and that gets us into this way of thinking that we either are a success at something or we're a failure at something, and it makes us afraid of taking risks because we're afraid that we're going to fail. Now, actually, what we know as entrepreneurs is the more risks you take, this is probably a James Ashford thing, actually. All you've got to do is succeed more times than you fail. I don't know where I've heard that. I bet it was James. But actually, you've got to go out there and you need to take the risk, because it's the only way you're going to grow a business. Because every entrepreneur, there isn't actually one perfect model for a bookkeeping practice. The perfect model for you is the perfect model for you. And that model hasn't existed yet. You've got to create it. But that hasn't been created before. So actually what you're working towards, you don't actually exactly know what steps you need to go through. But you do need to keep taking risks and making actions that you might see as risks. And some of them won't work. But you have to have done that, because otherwise you won't work out what is the right thing. And the way to start to see that failure as actually a learning opportunity is to change your way of thinking, so that you have more of a growth mindset. But this isn't trained into us, the majority of us. I think it can depend on your upbringing. And I know Jo's got entrepreneurial parents, and she definitely had it more than me when we started working together. We've had to do a lot of work on this. I definitely have. But this is about, having more of a growth mindset and looking at things as opportunities. And we were talking, sorry, I've gone on a long ramble here, very excited about it. But like when you were saying about, having an ideal client, and suddenly, rather than like ticking the boxes and doing things in the way that society expects us to do them, and achieving and it looking like, a good degree and having a good job and all of that stuff, suddenly we're like in this world of freedom where we can create anything we want. If we want, we can have the car that we had as a poster on our wall when we were a kid growing up. Like, what kind of world is that? That is not what we were told when we went to school. But we actually can have it. The only thing is, if we want to have that, we have to work out how we're different so that we can stand out to our ideal client. This is blowing people's minds. And how can we get comfortable with the idea that we now need to stand out? And that is fascinating to me.
And this is what I then kind of came to that realization, and that's then really helped when I've worked with my clients is, it's okay to find yourself in that comparison kind of format. You've got to work to get yourself out of it, but don't beat yourself up for comparing yourself, because it's so naturally ingrained in us, you're going to do it. In the same way that you've got, imposter syndrome, a lot of these words, these phrases, they are thrown about so much at the moment, and thrown about a lot by business coaches, by mentors out there in the social media space. They're so important, but what's important to understand what that means for you. So we all feel like we shouldn't be doing what we're doing. We all get to that point where you might have a really good run of success, and then that little voice on your shoulder, I call mine Bruce because it's easier if I personify it and then I can flick him away. No offense to anyone that's called Bruce. It just was the way that it kind of came to my mind. But it's how you deal with those things that enable you to then keep moving forward, which then is why I'm such a believer in taking those ideas that you've got, looking at what success means for you, and then working out what action do you need to take to get yourself to that point. But don't get caught up in comparing your action with other people's actions, because again, I'll get super cheesy, you're on your own journey, and it's got to work for you. And what works for you is not necessarily going to work with somebody next to you or another family member, for example. I mean, I'm looking, the chat's kind of coming in. It's absolutely amazing that you guys are just so engaged with what we're talking about, and I know that you can relate to it as well. But I think somebody mentioned on there around, their family and everything, everyone being employed. I'm in a situation where that's the comment that I was looking for, is my husband is employed. And one of the things that I really battle against is my husband saying to me, I don't understand why you're taking this extra time away from us as a family to create something that you don't need. And that has always been my point. I don't need it now, but next year I might need it, or the year after I might need it. And I don't want to be starting at scratch when I need it. So I'm building up that solid foundation of a business that I can bring in when I need to reduce the amount of work I do, or I can grow it to then be able to fulfill a need that I have at the moment. So that links into that kind of comparisonitis, in that you might not necessarily be comparing yourself exactly to somebody that's in a similar position to you or running a business in the same way that you might be. You might be drawn into some of those comparisons around your family and around your friends, and finding yourself in a situation where they don't necessarily understand, which is why groups like this are amazing, because actually you are around people that do understand and do want you to be different, because that's how we're all going to succeed, is to tap into those unique personality traits and that unique drive that we all have to be able to do what we do. So yeah, oh gosh, we covered so much there, didn't we?
We have. I just want to point this out. Leander has asked, how do we make ourselves stand out? I hide social media is quiet. I don't advertise, but this year I need to make a start on this. So I know Leander's got a fab business and she's doing well, but we still, you've got comparisonitis. So then that stops us becoming visible potentially, because we don't want to be seen, like we're putting ourselves out there to be judged, because we are judging the people that we are seeing. So then we think, oh my goodness, if I put myself out there, what are people going to say and what are they going to think about me? How do we get over that?
So I had this quite recently, and actually sent out an email to a lot of my subscribers about it, because again, it was something that was so relevant. I do put myself out on there on social media. I am quite visible, and I am trained to do that. I'm a performer, and my mum put me on the stage when I was 5 years old, and I've performed ever since. So actually being visible is something that comes fairly naturally to me, but I work with a lot of people who it isn't natural for. But I recently put something out there on Instagram, it was, and I received some feedback from somebody who is an old music acquaintance of mine, who is not my ideal client in any way, shape or form, is hugely different from the demographic that I speak to on my social media, and he still made a choice to follow me. And at first it really knocked me. it really knocked my confidence. I thought, oh my gosh, have I done something wrong? He's criticizing the action that I'm taking on social media. It still takes a lot, even for somebody that is quite extroverted and is still quite confident. It's a lot of effort to put yourself out on social media. It takes a lot out of you. And what I then came to realize is actually, when you start to think about the person that you're serving, the person whose life your business is going to make so much easier, it makes it easier to put yourself out there. So rather than worrying about what other people are thinking about you, think about the person that you are serving, for want of a better word. What I do quite often with some of my clients is create that ideal client persona. And I don't know if that's some work that you guys have kind of done in your group. And there are differing opinions on how to create your ideal client persona. Some people want to go full on and they want to create an avatar. And for some people, it's not so much about the demographics, but it's more about maybe that emotional connection, some of the wants and the needs of your ideal client. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. But the way that I like to do it is I like to actually create that person into something that feels a little bit more real. So when I have those moments of doubt, when I'm starting to think, oh gosh, I don't really want to go live on Instagram today, or I don't want to do another social media post, or I'm fed up of showing my face, I don't want to put any makeup on, I haven't done my hair in 3 days, and I've been wearing the same tracksuit for the last 5 days, I do not want to show up right now. What I tend to think about is that individual person. So for me, my ideal client persona, her name is Amy. So I focus on Amy, and I focus on, if I don't show up today, what effect is that going to have on her and on her business? And actually, it's bigger than me. This is about the people that I serve as a clients, and this is about how I can help them develop more. So in terms of that question, when you are struggling to be visible, it is your own mindset that's standing in your way. But my God, that mindset is so powerful, and it will throw so many blockers in your way and convince you not to do something. For me, it's really helpful to then imagine Amy and think, what does Amy need from me today? And then I just talk to her on social media, and it feels like I'm talking to a friend, and it takes the pressure off for me, that then allows me to show up. So I don't know if anyone else has kind of looks at it in that way or has experienced in that way before.
I love this approach to it, like talking to your ideal client on social media. I mean, we do a lot of work on ideal client through our 6-month success program, and we focus on the niche, and we talk about it a lot. And yeah, I agree. You could or you couldn't get into the detail of the avatar. It depends on how you want to approach it. But when you are, I like video. I use Instagram stories a lot, and I know that isn't for everybody. Although it's been so great to see more people using it. Like, I think Karen's here. Karen's always on her stories, and Aletha's been using her stories, and just seeing people doing that is great. And I think if you're afraid of it, I haven't thought of it like this before. So Hannah, this is like a breakthrough for me. But just thinking of talking to that friend is so much, if it's a friend, but that particular person helps you so much to do that. So it's just a great way to think about it, and then you don't need to think, I've got to, I'm trying to stand out or do something specific, or position myself in a particular way, or compare. I don't need to compare myself, or other people aren't going to be looking at me. All you're doing is focusing on that one person, and that's a real lesson we've learned this afternoon, I think.
And for me, that's helped a lot of my clients as well, because it just, like I say, it just blocks out the noise around you and just allows you to focus on your purpose and your intention. And let's say, I'm an absolute lover of social media, and I work quite closely with my clients around how they can use social media more effectively, because it is an absolute minefield. There's things changing constantly. It's such a great marketing tool, but you need to be more strategic with it if you really want to kind of use it in terms of a business tool. But focusing on that one person. And I suppose the other kind of tip that I would give as well, that I've really found has worked as I've implemented it more, is think about the language that your ideal client is using. So once you've started working with clients, once you've started to have that real hands-on experience with working with people, ask them what they think about your business. One of the key exercises that I do regularly with my clients is I ask them to describe my business in 3 words. And that's really, really helpful to make sure that what they perceive your business and your brand is how that compares to how you perceive your business and your brand. And more often than not, for most people, it will marry up, but using language that they're going to associate with, because I know I've been really guilty of using really technical language that people can't relate to. So I think that's really, really helped me and my clients as well.
I've just seen this post that Leander's put up, a breakthrough. Construction workers will not be interested in my physical appearance, and the outdoor activity I am exploring will love my look. Stop beating myself up and being me. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yes.
they're going to relate to that, aren't they? They're going to relate to you being outside and doing the things you do so much more than you. So yeah, fantastic breakthrough. Absolutely love that.
And I just think what you said there is about, so when you're speaking to Amy, and rather than thinking, so I think what happens is when we're trying to price our services, when we're going onto social media, when we're trying to communicate in any which way about our business, I think sometimes we go into this sales mode and then we feel really icky about it.
Yeah.
So then we don't actually want to do it. So if we stop thinking about selling and just think about, okay, Amy needs me today. Amy needs me to tell her something. What one thing could I tell her today on social media that might help move her business forward and add some value to her day, cheer her up a bit, put a bit of spring in her step, and make her think, yes, I can do this. If we stop thinking about selling, and I can do this, I do this in like my proposal, my sales calls, I really stop thinking about, someone said to me once, and it's so true, if you're going into a sales call seeing floating money pound signs above someone's head, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Because straight away the energy, people will pick up on that. So when I go into my sales meetings, I listen twice as much than I talk. I make sure I'm asking lots of questions. I'm listening out for that how can I help moment. What is it that they need me for? What value can I bring? And then when you do that and engage in that kind of conversation, the money is just irrelevant because it's a transaction. They're going to pay for it because they're going to get more out of it, way more than how much you're going to be charging on a monthly basis. So I think it's about reframing the conversation we're having in our head when we're about to do something. And I think that's like, getting that icky. If you're getting that icky feeling, it's because you're going into it with the wrong intentions. You're thinking, I need a sale. I need 3 more clients this month. I need to up my revenue. Don't go into it like that. Fine, I love that. Connect with your ideal client, personify them and say, what do they need to hear today? How can I help them? And then by doing that, you're becoming the expert in your industry. Other people, not just Amy, will be noticing you and thinking, oh, she actually knows what she's talking about. And they know what you're talking about and what industry you're in, because half the time people don't understand what you do because we don't actually talk about that enough. So thank you. So I've got an avatar. Sophie is my avatar, and I've got everything about Sophie, but I've never spoken to her. So thank you. That's a breakthrough for me today.
Oh, good. Well, I think it's something that's really, really helped. It's helped a lot of my clients, and it definitely takes some of that pressure off. And also, like you say, that ick feeling, because as business owners, we are selling our product. We have to sell our product. Otherwise, our business doesn't make any money and it all falls down. I think there's a nursery rhyme in there somewhere, isn't there? So we've got to make money. We've got to sell. And there is a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of information out there about sales funnels, about back-end automations, about which actually take so much of the emotion out, and they're so necessary and they're so useful. But depending on where you are in your business, that's where you can prioritize. Do I need to be me in my business right now? Or am I at a point where I'm getting regular clients come in through my doors? I can now look at automating. I can now look at some of these more complex sales funnels. But definitely when you're building your brand and you're building your business, or you're rebranding, because I've worked with businesses as well who actually may have been going, the photographer that I mentioned, she's been running her photography business for nearly 10 years alongside her day job. But about a year ago, we rebranded. And that, again, you're kind of starting a little bit from the beginning. Although you've got the knowledge and the expertise of your craft, you're now reintroducing yourself to the world in a different way. So being able to look at your ideal client in that way will then help you prioritize your activities that you're going to do, because is this activity going to serve my ideal client? And especially when you are balancing a million and one other things, there are going to be bits and pieces on your to-do list that are going to stay on your to-do list for probably the next 10 years. And that's okay, because you're prioritizing and saying, to move my business forward today, to serve my clients in the way that I need to, these 3 activities are going to enable me to do that. And these 3 activities are a nicety, but actually I just don't have time for that right now. So I'm going to park those, and I'm going to keep moving forward, which it all links back to being able to then prioritize and turn those ideas that you have into those action activities that are going to drive you forward.
Oh, I love that. I was talking to a bookkeeper this morning. We had a chat about the 6-month success program, and she is in a position where she's resigned from her job. She's got 3 months notice to work, and she's put her child into nursery for an extra 1 day a week. So she's got 1 day a week to work on her business, and she needs to, she was talking about getting a part-time job for now until she can get some clients. And I said, well, actually, my challenge to you is to find a client right now, so you don't have to take a part-time job. If you were in that kind of position, or you were talking to someone in that kind of position, and they had children to look after, they were working around an employment and starting to build a business, and where we've just been talking about the priorities to move things forward, where would you start with? What are the steps that you would take if you know that you've got to have a paying client in 3 months' time? Where would you start on that journey now?
I would really focus on the planning aspect. So when the things that we've been talking about are very much mindset related, yes, they help you prioritize. But actually, then what you're talking about for somebody in that situation is they need to really take action straight away, and they need to almost run some things in parallel to be able to get to where they need to in 3 months' time. So planning and really looking at what can I feasibly get done, because quite often we'll look at a day and say, right, well, I've got a day to spend on my business, for example. But you haven't got a day to spend on your business, because you've got to get them to school, or they're going to come home at some. I mean, who knew that the school day would just make you feel like 6 hours just whizzes past in like 3 minutes, it feels like sometimes. But there's going to be other things that are going to be occupying your mind. For me, working at home, unfortunately, the washing machine is right outside my office door, so I can't ignore it. So there's things like having to put the washing on, having to do your shopping. So really break down how much time you actually have available, and then look at those activities that are going to attract your ideal client to you. And to be honest, it all comes down to visibility. You've got to get out there in front of your ideal client and show them why they need you. So concentrating on the problem that you're solving for them. But even more than that, it's the transformation that you're going to give them. So often I see people do work on their ideal client, and they're focusing on, right, these are the problems that I solve, but there's no emotional connection. When people buy from you, they could choose 1,000,001 different bookkeepers to go and work with, but it's that emotional connection that they're going to have to you, which is why doing that work around the ideal client and understanding what they need from you, how you can enhance their life and how you can help transform their business experience, is getting out there and talking about that. So prioritizing activities that are going to get you in front of your ideal client would be where I would really help somebody in that situation move forward.
That's so interesting, and so important. Something else I would add is, I think something that stops us selling is, especially when we're right at the beginning of our business, or actually while I was right into my business, it was that my onboarding process and how I was going to take somebody from that initial meeting and take them all the way through to that transformation. I hadn't got the processes, the systems, the step by step sorted. As soon as I worked on my onboarding process, so I knew how I was going to get a prospect to become a client, and then the journey, exactly what I was going to do with them, month in, month out, and I could see the transformation that I could get. Then I started believing in myself enough to go and sell my value, because I could say, I know if you come on board, this is the steps we're going to take, and this is how it's going to work. So I really think when I very first started my business, I just thought I need to get a client and then I'll do the bookkeeping. It's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. Yes, you can do the transactions and yes, you can reconcile a bank account. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making sure that you are the agent for them under HMRC, so you can phone HMRC on their behalf. That you've done your money laundering regulations, or you've ticked off all the bits. Honestly, when you map it out, and my favorite thing to do is to get a big bit of wallpaper or wrapping paper, post-it notes, map it all out. Once you know when they say yes, you know all the next things that need to happen in that line, you get so much more confident. And I think actually not having that stops us from advertising and being visible in the first place. So yes, you need to plan the activity and do that while it's like you say, there's lots of things you've got to do alongside each other. I just think if you don't know what you're going to do with someone when they say yes, that will stop you asking for business in the first place.
And I think that's so true, because like I say, it links to that transformation. You've got to know how you're going to get somebody from A to Z, and what that looks like, and the difference that you can make with their lives, and then especially the business that you're doing, and being able to demonstrate your value. I love the idea of like a massive piece of wallpaper, or just, you know, writing all over a big old whiteboard or post-its. That totally gets my creative brain like so excited, and understanding that. And that's, you know, that's exactly it. There's no one way to start this. There are so many things that you need to do at the beginning, and there's a lot of information out there at the moment around starting before you're ready and planning before you start. And I think it's a hybrid approach of both. I think you do need to know some information about your business, about your brand, about how you're going to put yourself out there, and how you're going to serve your customers and provide that transformation. That's going to evolve as time goes on, and as you work with more people and you start to really define who you are as a business. But absolutely, that work needs to be part of that initial process to enable you to have that confidence to say, actually, yes, I can provide you with this value. As you were saying about the sales calls, about doing all of the listening, when you do that listening, you've then got to know, almost visualize in your head where you're going to take that person next. It's your client journey, effectively. How are you going to bring them in and nurture them and show them that you can provide this transformative experience and make their lives 10 times easier, because that's what people want, and then show how you're going to nurture them through that process to enable them to build that relationship with you. So work out how you're going to get visible, know what you're going to do for them, and then get going.
Oh, I love that. I'm just seeing so many people as well just posting about how they're like holding themselves back from getting new clients because they don't have an onboarding process. Or someone saying here, Steph saying, I really need to improve my onboarding process. Lots of people having lots of ideas and needing to keep notebooks and things. And actually, like we do, like this is, I love, Joe actually made me go through that process with a roll of wrapping paper and post-it notes when we first got together, when we started the Six Figure Bookkeeper, because we were like, we need to know whether we have a business here, and we need to know whether we can work on a project together. And Joe's like, right, here's my wrapping paper, let's get all the post-it notes out. And it was a really good experience, and everybody can do that. Like we can all, anyone who's in that like startup overwhelm place, you can go and you can brainstorm. Or actually, do you know what, wherever you are stuck in your business, because I can see lots of names I'm familiar with here, and I know a lot about your businesses, but the point that you are stuck at right now, what are all the things you're telling yourself you need to do? Okay, now what order do they need to happen in? Because we need to prioritize the stuff that's actually going to move the business forward. And there'll be loads of stuff that comes up when you're writing those post-it notes that aren't just distracting you from the important things that are going to help you have the confidence to bring the clients on board, or the things that are actually going to make the money for you in the business and move you forward. There's loads of nice to haves. We've all got loads of those, but it's choosing the stuff that's going to make the difference for you. Can I come back to the family bit? Because I am like, if you are, this is like, I really want to pick your brains on this, because there are so many people here who are parents and like just thinking like, how on earth can I make this happen? Like, can they really build a business that allows them to work school hours? And like, what do you need to prioritize if you want that to happen for you, if you are in that position?
I think it's prioritizing those activities that are going to make you money. because quite often with our businesses, there will be lots of things that we want to do that we're passionate about. You can launch this, you can launch that, you can, there's so many add-ons that you can do for your business that really fill your heart, and that's why you wanted to start your business in the first place. But especially early on, when you need to bring the income in to enable your business to move, for me, what I did and what I do with my clients is I set those initial income goals. What is the absolute minimum that I need to earn to be able to keep my business going, but also pay myself what I need to be able to keep my household going and be able to keep my family going? And how many clients is that? How many clients is that I need to be able to bring that in? And that will link to the talks that you've had about pricing, because especially early days, I was booked out. I was earning thousands and thousands of pounds in my first month. I was exhausted. I was working more than I'd ever worked in my entire life. And I worked with a business coach about 4 months into my business, and I was really chuffed, and I've earned all of this money and it's really amazing. And she looked at what I was doing and she's like, you're going to burn yourself out. This is not sustainable because you're not charging enough money. So of course people are coming to you because you're bloody cheap and you're outpricing your competitors. So put your prices up, learn your own value, and then you can make your business work. So linking in with all of kind of those pricing considerations, how much do you need to earn? How many clients is that you need to bring in? And then looking at, okay, well, what time have I got to be able to do that? What activities can I prioritize that enable me to do that? It might be that your social media falls by the wayside for the first few months because actually you need to go out there and you need to network in person, and that's going to be your priority because that's the quickest way to build a relationship with somebody, is to get in front of them. So it's about encouraging people to potentially get on a discovery call with you or meet you face to face in a networking event that allows them to almost accelerate that get to know you process, that dating process. You want that to, we're not talking about the Tinder and the social media dating side of things. You've actually got to go out and you've got to have a date with this person for them to get to know you. So look at how you can fit that in around children being at nursery, the children being at school, because as we've said, that 6 hours really isn't very much when you've traveled somewhere or you've prepared for a meeting, you've then potentially sent a couple of emails, you've done some of your back office stuff. So looking at really what is going to get you in front of your ideal client, how you can connect with them on that emotional basis to show them that you're there to make their life easier. And from there, it is then about building, because the more you do it, the more that will become a little bit more second nature. The first time you hold discovery calls, gosh, I remember the first discovery call I held was like over an hour, and I came off and I was exhausted, and it's not a productive way to run a discovery call. But the more you do it, the quicker you get, the more you understand what people want from you. So I think be a bit kind to yourself and know that you are on this learning journey and you are on this process, and things will get easier. But in terms of balancing it, you know that you need to make money by X date, X time. How much money do you need to make? How are you going to make that money? And how are you going to get in front of those people to connect with them that enables them to just hand me the money, hand over that money, would be where I would focus.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. We've covered so much, and also so much that we've been talking about this week. You've just helped us look at it in a different way. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and thank you everyone who has been here with us during this session. Hannah, can you tell people how they can connect with you and find out more about what you do?
Yes, of course. So probably the best place is my website, which is thefemalecreative.co.uk. That has all links to my social media. So one of the things on my to-do list, though, is to make sure I get that. It's about time that I had a little bit of a website refresh. And then on Instagram is probably the next best place, which is @the_female creative, and I share various bits and pieces. I also have a free Facebook group, which is the Female Creative Community, as well as my own paid membership as well. But most of my information is on my Instagram or on my website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's absolutely amazing. Everyone who has joined us this afternoon, don't forget to come back tonight at 8 o'clock. We're going to be live in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, we won't be here. You need to come and join the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. I noticed a couple of comments coming up. Someone was saying, are these sessions only for people in the UK? No, we are here. We are an international group. We've got people here from Australia, people from the States. So depending on time zones, if you're in the States, you should be able to join us this evening. But we'll be there 8 p.m. GMT in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. We're covering the final step of our 4-step RISE framework. We're going to go and we'll talk about how we can implement everything we've learned about goal setting, ideal client over the last couple of days. We're also going to talk to you a bit about the 6-month success program if you want to hear more about that. We are giving away prizes. Remember, we've got some competitions running this week. So grab your workbook, come back this evening at 8 o'clock, and we will see you later. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.